Hey guys, welcome to Nerdarchy, for nerds by nerds. I'm Ted, and today I'm hanging out with
Eric Stave.
Nathan Nerdark.
our good friend Locrius Planetoid is here to tell you about what this video is all about.
In the deepest, darkest swamps lurks a creature so terrifying, even the most stalwart of adventurers tremble at the mere mention of its name. Woe be unto the hapless fool who crosses paths with the Froghemoth.
Thanks to Locrius for bringing that in for us.
And if you guys don't have your Volo's guide to monsters, which is where we're pulling the Froghemoth from, there will be a link in the description below, as well as a link to Locrius Planetoid's channel, where you can see all of his crazy, wacky monster videos, as well as see that video in full.
Indeed.
The Froghemoths are crazy. They're huge monstrosities. They're utter nightmares. They just spawn on their own. Like they don't even have to mate to have babies. They just Froghemoths just kind of happen.
Like just popping off.
And these things are fantastic. They've got a multitude of abilities.
I just like the sheer amount. I mean, they're just a giant meatball. 16 D12 plus a whole bunch of Constitution hit point bonus.
184 hit points on average. Not
So
bad.
they're a CR10. They are an ambush monster, and their goal is to basically try and drown your players and eat them. And that's all they do. They do a ton of damage. They have a plus 10 to hit, so they're going to be able to hit. They're probably that first round. I'm going to guess that they're going to attack with advantage. From the water. That surprise round is probably going to be devastating for a party.
I mean, technically, it's got the ability to put 3 players out of regular action
In the first round,
because it could take 2 with its tentacles and begin submerging them, and then it can grab another one with its tongue and swallow it.
And then next round, it can do 2 more tentacle attacks.
So it's got the ability to really mess up a party. So it can only have four things grappled, and it can only have 2 medium-sized creatures in its gullet.
But it can grapple up to huge, so that's a big deal.
So, but that's a party of 6. That's a party of 6 having a bad time.
Yes.
And as a CR10, I feel like these guys could actually, under the right circumstances, could do some damage to an actual 10th level party. Most of the time, it's it's pretty easy for the monsters. But a DC 18 is nothing to sneeze at. That's a decent.
That's a strength check, right?
That's a strength check, yeah.
So yeah, that's not gonna be something that the average party is gonna be able to deal with. It's gonna shut your mages down. It's gonna shut down anything that's not a strength-based warrior.
Yeah. Your paladins, fighters, rangers, they all at least barbarians. They all at least have a shot at that saving throw. But even still, so let's say they have an 18 is a +4. Your 10th level is at another +4. So at that point, they still need a 10 or better to make the save.
And that's someone with a check.
That's someone that's proficient,
proficient.
With that saving throw. So even then, it's not necessarily
So it's the 50-50 for the ideal character.
Maybe you're biting and eating, maybe you're not.
So these guys are going to be terrifying, and they're just so weird and Cthulhian that I've always loved the Froghemoth. It's always been a really cool monster to introduce into your game. And it really goes way back to first edition Dungeons and Dragons.
Locrius, you want to tell us where that came from?
Originally appearing in the first edition D&D module, Expedition to the Barrier Peaks, the Froghemoth was a cosmic traveler that serendipitously fell from the heavens to fuck your ass up.
Thanks again, buddy. As you can see, the Froghemoth has been around for a while. Now, the question is, how will we use the Froghemoth in our game?
When I read through, I said this is an utter nightmare. But anytime I'm dealing with a solo monster, I always want to know, especially when you get into that challenge 10 and higher, I mean, is that enough to be able to contend with what the party is going to be able to do? I want legendary actions, or I want lair actions. So my first go-to is, while this is utterly terrifying, what if I step it up a caliber? What if I make a legendary version that's bigger, badder, meaner, has access to more tentacle type stuff?
Is that really necessary?
I think. Well, I
For
feel
a higher
like
level party.
for like
yes.
the party that's on average take this on, you're going to have the issue where you don't really know if it gets away with the fighter getting a good attack and swallowing him, or gets the mage or somebody or the cleric and starts drowning them. First round of attack's going to really see. Is someone going to die? Is someone going to need to get resurrected?
That is true.
So here's what I'm thinking, right? I'm thinking about, like, the players are on a quest. They have to go through a swamp, and they come across this little rickety village, right? And the villagers are very helpful, and they bring them in, and they finally have a place where it's kind of somewhat dry. They get home-cooked meals. They can hang out for a day or two.
Very welcome and happy place.
They can recoup a little bit. First night there, they start having nightmares. They start having dreams. I really feel like these guys have this otherworldly presence. Maybe they're connected to the great old ones, and just being near them gives off this otherworldly emanations that would disrupt the sleep and possibly kind of enacts, I don't want to say curses, is a little bit strong, but perhaps, some kind of saving throw has to be made so that the players can have a restful night of sleep. And maybe they don't even know what the problem is. Maybe the villagers even they're like, hey, we need your help with something. They try and convince them to stay. Maybe they even start suffering, levels of exhaustion if they're not making these saving throws because they're having, bad night terrors. And it turns out that this whole village is actually, for generations, they've been worshiping a Froghemoth, or several Froghemoths,
the swamp
maybe.
god.
Yeah, they're swamp god, they're swamp idol. You can kind of do some foreshadowing, like, maybe they have some weird, crazy festival going on,
Or some symbology, scattered around the town that it's not blatantly obvious, but it's a little off.
Yeah, three eye sigils here, frog idol there.
And if they know that the people are kind of, competent people, like adventurers seem to be, they could always give if you're going to leave, could you please first, some people are disappearing in the swamps, we need some help with finding, Uncle John or, Boy Timmy or something. And they say, hey, yeah, just come on and check this out for us, please, because people aren't coming back.
Yeah, and this could be like, and maybe use like some, cultists and then some cultist fanatics, and then actually Volo's Guide to Monsters in the back has an NPC section with the great old one warlock in there. So like maybe that's like the leader of the cult, and essentially maybe the cultists will try and poison with like a sleep poison or something, where they try and dress up the adventurers and set them up for the Froghemoth.
Or, as Nate says, have them just go investigate.
Or lead it, yeah.
Thinking that, we're sending it its meal, not expecting the players to actually be able to bring down their god.
And if they get a little too meta, they're like, all right, a quest, great. And then like,
so you could have some fun with it. And, maybe that's just really the beginning of a greater arc, where maybe this thing really is connected to this otherworldly place, and the place where the warlock really does get his power from. So you could lead down a road like that. You could use aboleths. There's other monsters, krakens, things that could be connected to this otherworldly place.
Plethoras of monstrosity.
Yes, and this is like the first uncovering of a greater plot to actually bring that otherworldly place, or beings from that otherworldly place here. So eventually you can bring Cthulhu into the world.
Absolutely.
But, that's one way of using it.
So, Locrius, you want to give our fans out there some other ways that the Froghemoth could be used?
Dungeon masters can find a place for this monstrosity in an area with a large body of fresh water. You could make it a magical creation, the result of a bizarre arcane experiment locked away in the watery bowels of a nefarious wizard's dungeon. Or perhaps it's a beast of legend that simply evolved to become the Quagmire's most ass-whippingest ambush predator. Maybe the Froghemoth is even worshipped as a living god by a tribe of bullywugs, a lizard folk, or some crap like that.
Man, that pretty much covers it all, man. Thanks, buddy. That was a little frightening. I'm a little scared to go in the water again. It's like the first time I saw Jaws. But with that, guys, how are you using the Froghemoth in your game? And if you're not, why not? Let us know in the comments below. While you're at it, like, share, and subscribe.
So check out the articles over at nerdarchy.com.
Or you can patronize us in a good way over on Patreon.
So until next time.
Stay nerdy.